What is up guys, Wraec is here with a new video, and today we're going to talk about purifying type Mareia. And I want to give you guys a little bit of a summary of my testing so far, because we did a live stream, we tested her in depth already, we did her basically on day one of her release, and after that I of course went ahead and tested it a little bit more. I want to tell you guys whether or not this is a hero that you might want to summon for your account. So first of all, what even is Mareia? Is she a support hero? Is she a CC hero? Is she a DPS? Well, I would say a little bit of a combination of a DPS and a CC hero. She was announced as the hero that can keep up your CC, that is able to do a lot of damage, and kind of as a mix between damage and DPS overall. And I tested that a little bit. I have to say, her damage is kind of significant. We're going to remove the Williams because he's going to make her look bad otherwise, we have to say. But the good thing is you have kind of this combination of just like pretty solid CC and I would say good damage. I wouldn't kind of categorize her into the area of like the top meta DPS for Void campaigns such as Williams, DTV, SSM, IEA2. But I would say it's like one level below that. One level below that where you say, okay, for a CC hero, that is pretty good damage. So I would say that. And I think compared to other CC heroes, we could argue that she's probably the highest damage one. Like compared to TBB, Starwing Jara, and so on, I would say she probably does the highest damage. She also has pretty good CC. You can see it right there. A full CC on the enemy team right there with a single active skill. It is no longer that impressive to be able to do that, if we are honest. We saw this the first time with Starwing Jara, that a full enemy team got CC'd by an active skill, and now more heroes can do that, especially if you go for the likes of Wukong or TBB. They can do it even a little bit better, because one thing that she kind of struggles with, and we can take a look at that again, is first of all to reliably CC on round 1. That is something that her normal counterpart also struggled with. A little bit of a competition here between Basilisk and her. Basilisk I don't think has Giant Killer on him and had no artifact. She had an artifact, so it's a little bit cheating. But she kind of struggles to CC reliably on turn 1. It will be something between, let's say, usually it's 3 to 5 enemies that are CC'd. And I don't think I have seen a full 6 hero CC on turn 1 yet. She can convince me otherwise in a second. Let's see how many heroes are CC'd. That was 1. So it can be really sad. It can be really sad. And it is kind of RNG. She will need to inflict this skill effect called Stain to reliably inflict CC on enemies. And then you basically start CCing those. She has an ability that is supposed to lengthen the duration of CC on enemies. This ability, and that was found out by Will, is bugged at the moment. It doesn't work. She won't actually extend your duration of the CC on those enemies. If you see a freeze not running out after 2 rounds, that is only because she reapplies it. It can run out, of course, earlier if the enemy purifies it. Extending the CC wouldn't keep the enemies from purifying it, of course. But it was a strategy that was kind of interesting because people said, okay, I can kind of go into my Valk stage that I'm stuck at, and I take this hero because one thing that she has is she doesn't really have CC on her active skill. I take that and I just inflict 1 CC with TBB, and then I go ahead and I extend the CC with Mareia, and I just try to not inflict any other type of CC, because that would of course trigger the Valk passive, and I keep this TBB CC alive by inflicting numerous debuffs that are purified, and I get a high RNG clear like that, where the Valks are just CC'd all the time, even though no new CC is applied. And that is of course a very interesting thing, and a very interesting application. It gets a little bit more complicated when we understand where her CC is from. Her CC is mainly from 2 sources. Source number 1 is her transition skill, which will probably give you most of the CC. That is just when you do an active skill, or when she has 6 layers of transition power and activates the skill, then she will CC a ton of enemies, will inflict freeze on them, and then inflict stain on targets with control effects, which means she has pretty good synergy with other CC heroes. So what you can do is you can, for example, go around and you can have something along the lines of like a TBB going in and then try to CC with her. So we can try that. Let's just put the TBB in here. We could also use a Wukong. It doesn't really matter. Where's my TBB? I owned a TBB before. I hate it when I don't find my heroes. I don't think that's the right TBB. Wait, the other one is up there. Okay, makes sense. Let's do that. So, if the TBB actually CCs enemies, she didn't. Thank you for that. Ah, come on. Okay, TBB CC 3 enemies, which is not good because we didn't have the core equipped. We will see that actually enhances her chance to kind of put stain on more enemies, and those enemies will also get stain. So the synergy with other CC heroes is actually pretty good because she can work on top of them. She can use the existing CCs that are already on the enemy to kind of work together with her Destiny transition. So that is a strategy that generally works fairly well for her. But as a sole CC, it is kind of bad. So the way that her CC is kind of structured is you go ahead, you CC the enemies with like a TBB, and then you go ahead and CC with her. That is probably the best way to use her. The question is, where is this actually worth it? As you can see in this fight, we got reliable CC throughout the entire fight already with TBB. So the only place where I would really say, okay, I need like this extra CC hero where I can keep the enemy super CC'd is if they introduce another Void Vortex where the enemy HP is so high that we need 60 rounds to punch through. Then I could say, okay, well then maybe we add her on top. I used to add like a Starwing Jorah. So that is something that I could imagine myself do again. We can watch the beginning of the fight one more time. Oh, I should have activated the core. Maybe we get a good CC. Let's see. 4, not too bad. Can we get a full Steam CC on with Mareia? No, we didn't. I'll show it one more time. Okay, next attempt. Let's see if we can get good CC. Okay, we got full team CC. Mareia goes in. She didn't actually inflict CC on all enemies, but she got stain on all enemies. So we got the debuff now. The skill effect is on all of those enemies so that we can follow up. And also if they inflicted something, well, if they had some passive skills that would do damage, they would also all do less damage, of course, because we got the stain on them fairly to So that is a nice synergy that works well, but it's a niche synergy that I don't think has super good application. And one other thing that I want to tell you, you can see that the freeze actually tends to run out all of the time. And that is not only because, well, we have a lack of this control extension. Enemies could of course purify the freeze nonetheless, but it's also because she's lacking a kind of a crucial part that I was celebrating on her base version, and I want to show you this on Mareia itself. So Mareia has this passive skill, and it's at the end of each round for every enemy with stain on the battlefield, which is a little twirl at the bottom of their feet, increases self-all damage dealt by 5% for 1 round and grants self 6 energy. And the base version had a very similar passive skill. And it wasn't referring to stain, it was referring to another skill effect called Azure Wave Rule, which worked in a very similar manner. And what the base version could do was that those enemies with Azure Wave Rule, there was a 70% chance to inflict freeze of them at the end of each round, which essentially gave her like a TBB kind of effect, where she would continuously CC the enemies and making it very tough for them to break out once they had this Azure Wave Rule on them. And I was really hoping for this to carry over to the Transcendence version, because I thought, well, this is kind of a very insane ability. It's kind of great. It fits also into the scheme of like the hero that keeps the CC up, to have this kind of CC that always refers to the skill effect. And I thought this would be very powerful. But this ability, this part of it, didn't make it to the Transcendence version. And I'm really missing it. Because as soon as you have like a situation where you don't have all of those CC heroes, all of those other CC heroes, especially in something like Sealand, you tend to really notice that sometimes the enemies just break out and hit you in the face, and it's just not really a lot of fun. And even if you had the extension ability and it wasn't bugged, they would still purify the freeze and just hit you in the face. And for her to reapply it, she would have to attack. And in most PvE situations, the enemies are just now faster than you. So you really have a little bit of a hole in your defense, a hole in your CC that can only be fixed by other heroes, really making her feel rather incomplete. So that is a little bit annoying. And for her role with that, she really only comes in when there are other CC heroes in place already, and then she adds extra CC to it, she adds extra damage, adds extra support. She is a CC hero support. Not a CC support in that she really inflicts CC, but she supports other CC heroes, we could say. And then you have to ask yourself the question, does your TBB really need support? Does your Wukong really need support? And I would argue probably in most cases they don't. Because you're not struggling with the stages in Void Campaign, with the stages in any kind of PvE content that can be CC'd, because TBB got those covered. You don't struggle with those. Those are easy to clear. TBB will come in there, she will clear it, and you will be good. There's no problem. If it takes 1, 2, or 3 attempts, also doesn't matter. So the stages that you're struggling with are the ones that you can't CC because they either have Wraec in there, they do have some kind of other form of counter hero CSG or whatever in there. And people were hoping to counter at least Wraec with it by having this extension ability right here. And the idea was just basically to throw your TBB in there, have her CC once, have her die off because then you would use Balance Strike on her. And then you would just extend this existing CC with this ability. And right now, I mean, we can't test that. It would be kind of nice. I doubt it will help you clear a lot more stages because it will be hugely RNG. Maybe for Android, if you set this up and you run the macro, then you could probably do 500 attempts and one of them will work out and will give you like 10 rounds probably to clear. So could be good, But for that to work, you can't run the Destiny transition because this will freeze the enemy. You can never get a basic skill because this will definitely put freeze on one of the Wraeks. Unlucky enough probably for that. And what you also can't have, and this is a bit more of an annoying factor, and we have to make a video about this entire topic later on. I'm not too sure I set this up already. We have to talk about treasures a little bit. And what we have to talk about is also about, in general, stuff that you can't remove from your account. Because, for example, this, after using active skill, if enemy has been an adjacent target of chromatic overflow, is attacked X amount of times, additionally deals damage to them, and has 40% to freeze for them. And for bosses, it deals significantly extra damage. So as soon as you have this treasure, your active skill always has a chance to freeze. No matter if you have the Destiny transition on them or not. So if you have the treasure, then essentially this strategy that we couldn't test because it's bugged is broken anyway. So for me right now, I could never use this strategy on Mareia because I can never unequip this treasure, and with this treasure she will always CC. So yeah. RIP, I guess. It doesn't matter for me. I applied this treasure fully knowing that I couldn't do this, but in the wisdom that I have a burn immune SSM that would carry me through any bulk wave, so we're good on that. I can take it, it's okay. But in general, it can be a bit of a problem for that. So this strategy, we don't know if it works. It will be a thing we need to test once we get the bug fix for that, which I don't know how long it's going to take. For now, not a strategy. She has some quite interesting treasures. If you don't have them, then this is certainly going to reduce her performance a bit. Basic, not too important, but there is this ability when self takes damage from basic attack or active skill from a target with Stain, there's 34% chance to gain 1 layer of Divine Inspiration canvases, which I was really like, oh, that's nice. You can scale your attacks a little bit with it. It's good for bosses, but Divine Inspiration canvases, you can only have like 6 layers, so it's very limited anyway. And yeah, against normal enemies, if you CC them, they kind of can't attack you. So this will not trigger if you go for to use her in her intended way as a support for other CC heroes, then she will likely not get hit. So this will not trigger, which makes it not very important. The cool thing is, this one. At the end of each round for enemies with control effects addition, you reduce their all damage reduction by 8%. So if enemies have all damage reduction, this will make them way more vulnerable. So it's pretty cool. Actually like this one. Do you need those? I don't think you do. It's kind of good if you want more CC from your active skill to have this, but you don't super need them. I don't think they were vastly important. If you want to CC, you kind of mostly need like the Destiny transition. That is mostly the important thing. And one more thing that you have to be aware of is kind of the interaction with Stain. Stain is a very cool effect. It has a few problems. One problem mainly concerning her boss damage. Because if we go to a boss, and we notice this while doing Sealand, and maybe we can throw her in there, I want you to kind of keep an eye out for this stain effect on the boss. I will show it 2 times maybe. We will die horribly here. This is not meant to clear it, but I want you to keep an eye out for this. So we get pretty good CC on the normal units, which is nice. We still die because this boss has insane damage over time. But we get no stain. Let's try it again. Maybe it was a fluke. So we go in there again. Active skill from Mareia coming out. Good CC is very nice. And now you can maybe see. Ah yeah, look at that. Now we got the stain. So why did we get the stain on the second attempt and not the first one? And why do we sometimes not get it at all? I could show you a third time, we probably wouldn't get it. The reason is, well, very simple actually. We noticed it during the time that we did Sealand, that the damage on the boss was a whole lot lower than on other units on the battlefield, and consistently we're doing less damage to the boss. And the reason is that the boss doesn't get stain. The boss doesn't get stain because in my attempts we were running Spectre, which gives 50 energy on the start, and on the second round we are consistently doing active skills. And the active skill has no way to inflict stain. Right now, in this, if you check it out, there is nothing that will inflict stain, but it will trigger our Destiny transition because we have active skill transition power obtaining, which I would recommend to you guys. And when we have that, we will instantly get 6 layers of transition power when we do our active skill, and we will consume them to activate our transition power, which damages all enemies, has a chance to freeze them, and afterwards inflicts stain on targets with control effects for 4 rounds, which is our main way, by the way, to inflict stain on enemies. But the problem is, bosses can't get control effects. So what we instead do is we only inflict some debuffs on them. We did some extra damage to them, which is also good, I mean, but we don't get stain on them. The only way to get stain is if we do a basic attack, because that will inflict stain on targets that have been attacked 2 or more, which then will be converted to Stain Flash, which essentially works the same. It reduces the all damage dealt a little bit more, which is cool, but stain is actually important. Stain is important because in our active skill, if the adjacent target has stain, additionally deals damage equal to 30% of the target's max HP, which caps at 5000% of the attacker's attack. And it only can usually be inflicted once like that, but with the noble sublimation can be twice, so this is 10,000% attack damage if we fulfill this requirement and have an adjacent target with stain. And yeah, that is actually a little bit of the problem. So the way this is worded: damage to all enemies, okay. Then we can trigger Chromatic Overflow, which deals 1500% damage to one enemy and 3000% to the adjacent hero of the target. And if that adjacent target then has stain, additionally we will deal damage. So we would basically have to hit the minion next to the boss, then the boss would need to have stain, and then he would basically take the 3000% of attack damage, and plus on top of that another 5000% from this skill over here, and then we could basically hit that same minion again, would deal the 3000% again, and then another 5000 because of the noble sublimation. But we lose this 10,000% extra damage just because the boss can't get stain. So the only way for us to deal proper damage to the boss would be to do a basic attack, inflict stain, and then do an active skill. But this is difficult if you want to max out your damage within like 2-3 turns, and also difficult if you run something like, let's say, if we run something like our energy artifact right here, the Lingering Melody of the Universe, or Spectre, or some other meta artifacts that will also have energy on them. You can, of course, kind of go ahead and say, okay, then I don't run this, then maybe I run something like, let's say, Breath of the Forest. But then we need to get to like a turn 2 active, and we get a secondary problem. We open up a new problem with that, and I want to show you the new problem too. Because if we want to do that, okay, let's say we go ahead, we attack, same thing again, same thing as before. We do our attacks right here. Now we have 3 minions that can attack us because we have no further CC on the board. And we die to that. So we actually don't really get to attack the boss with an active skill at all in this scenario. We got the stain on the boss. Okay, we lived through that. We got the heal. Okay, we got the active skill. Ladies and gentlemen, active skill is out. But really, yeah, we even lost damage because of this. I mean, comparison to the other ones, we got a little bit closer. The boss damage made more sense. But yeah, wasn't really worth it compared to the other one. So you run into a lot of problems with energy. And let's say you want to use her for boss damage, then you kind of have to plan in to have a basic attack every now and then. So that really makes it difficult for you to run consistent energy feed, and also would probably prohibit you from using Spectre on her, which really makes it very problematic to use this hero at all. For PvP, I don't even want to go into depth too much. I tested her a little bit. My B tier is a bit too weak to really use it in competitive PvP against enemies that are at the same power level as me. Because that is just lacking too many stats. She's just going to outright die. But a few thoughts on that. There isn't too much going for her here. She basically has two things going. The first thing is all damage reduction on the enemy. That is the main thing that I would think you would use her for. It doesn't feel good. It just doesn't feel too good. I barely noticed it when I had this skill effect on the enemy, even though it is nice to have a skill effect that reduces the all damage dealt. If you have a debuff team, that might be something, but not too insane. And then the next thing is, if you want to have a CC hero, and you use her for that, I think you're a little bit misguided. Because the active, as we saw, we need to attack before the enemy does to CC them. And that is a really big problem, because you would need to run super high speed, which in turn means you need a kind of a nice copy. Whereas you could run a TBB and just CC before the enemy can attack from the start. So I think in every viable scenario, you would rather use a TBB and stack some supports on it than going for Mareia. And that is just a point that I made. So that inherently, I think, makes her off meta for PvP. Even if she has some nice damage, there's just nothing else to it. There is pretty mid CC. There is damage that probably will be okay if you really focus on her. She will be nice, but she just doesn't add too much to it. You can have a ton of damage on top of CC, on top of CC immunities. People forget that. But this guy has like full CC immunities that I always forget where they are. But we have the full stun over here, and then we have fragile as well that we can put on the enemy, which is absolutely insane. We have divine retribution. You have all of that in here already, and then basically a CC that is faster than that of Mareia on top of that. And we are competing for slots. There are only 6 slots on our team. So she has to kind of be better, at least in synergy with another hero, than a meta hero. And I just don't see that right now. So that is a bit of a problem that I have for her. Should you summon her? My answer is no. I'll be honest. She doesn't not only look like Ignatia, which is kind of funny, because I saw some people say that. If you compare the faces, they are really, really similar. One guy on the Discord actually wrote, why can you use the same Transcendence hero twice now? And he's kind of right. I'll be honest, they look very, very similar. It's insane. She's on Ignatia level. She's better than Ignatia. Let's be real about it. She's better than Ignatia, but she's just like a little bit too weak, I fear. I think for me to be excited for PvP, for PvE and PvP, they would have at least let her keep the CC ability here on the last passive. I think that would have been very good if they let her keep that. And I think one thing that I really wanted to have for her was that she just doesn't inflict normal freeze, but the real good freeze cold chill that keeps enemies from restoring HP. But they didn't even give her that. So I feel like they cut out a bit too much there. And I don't think there is much left to be celebrated over. So probably an interesting hero, and that is the best that I can say for this, an interesting hero for a meme account, where you say, okay, I don't really want like the best hero, but I want an interesting hero, because she will do proper damage. It will not be like an account where you are completely lost, like some people where they say, okay, I will use Freya or something to clear. That is just like, won't work at all. You will at least have some way to do it, but you will probably get stuck at like a lot of Wraec stages. But at least you can deactivate the divine power. And then again, that will probably lose you so much damage that again you will probably keep losing. So yeah, difficult. But that is really the best thing I can say for now. We'll test her again a little bit with the control effect extension once that works properly, and then yeah, we will try that again. But really, I even in boss fights, it didn't do too well. So I don't really see her. So I hope you enjoyed this video. There is one more little thing that I want to say towards the end of this, and it's a bit of a warning. we had the upgrade for Nova Sacred Flame quite recently, so you now have extended Nova Sacred Flame. I was a fan of the abilities, I thought they were kind of nice, because we got a ton of extra damage in here. There are two things that I want to warn you about. First of all, this has an attribute buff removal effect. I know some people like to use scissors for Star Expedition, so if you are somebody that uses scissors for Star Expedition and want to keep the attribute buffs on the enemy, then you might not want to get this, because this will remove attribute buffs from the Star Expedition boss. So this last upgrade, not too great. Another thing that you probably want to know about is that if you currently level this up to 25, and we have the remote right here, you can see there is an up symbol on those. And this is because right now the level 25 of Nova Sacred Flame replaces the active skills, both of those, the Star Soul Burst and the normal ones, on your Nova Sacred Flame with the ones from the Tentacle Star Soul. So this Star Soul then becomes unable to inflict burn on the enemy, which is why many people use it. So right now, I would keep it at 24. Don't upgrade it. Wait for them to fix the bug. Wait until this is like an announcement made or something, and then you can upgrade it. Before that, definitely don't, because it will horribly brick your account potentially for the next Star Expedition. I don't even know when this is. In 30 hours. So, and this too. That's great timing. Great timing. Same start for Star Expedition as for Ace. We can definitely be ready with our Star Souls then. They will definitely be on the right heroes. Super easy. I don't know what the H is thinking with this planning. Horrible. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Tell me your opinion about Mareia down in the comments. Did you build her already? Hit that subscribe button while you're on it. And with that, we'll see us in the next one.